The engine hadn't even cooled when Damien felt an unexplainable pull in his chest, like the past itself was reaching out through the dust-covered metal. He stood in the dim light of the rundown garage, staring at the old motorcycle he'd bought from the gray-haired veteran who seemed to tremble more from memory than from age. Damien had purchased dozens of bikes before, but nothing had ever made his hands shake the way this one did. He didn't know why, but something in him whispered that this wasn't just another machine. This was a story buried in steel, a truth waiting to rise. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected connections, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep telling stories that matter. Damien wasn't the type you'd expect to be shaken by much. As a proud Hell Angels biker, he carried a reputation of steel tattoos etched across his arms, leather vest worn by years of wind and asphalt, and eyes hardened by loss he rarely spoke about. But inside, Damien was a man searching for something he didn't have a name for. When he rolled the motorcycle out into the sun, the old veteran, who introduced himself simply as Walter, watched him with a strange mixture of relief and sorrow. Walter had lived long enough to see 2 wars, bury too many friends, and lose a son he still refused to talk about. He claimed the bike had been sitting in his barn for decades, untouched except for the occasional dusting. Damien had assumed it was just nostalgia, but the look in Walter's eyes told a different story. Something about that bike haunted him. Back at his own workshop, Damien began inspecting the motorcycle, noticing scars on the frame, handmade modification, careful welding, and a small metal plate under the seat engraved with initials he didn't recognize. When he opened the old leather saddlebag tucked beside the engine, he didn't find tools or dusty maps. Instead, he found a folded photograph, worn so thin it felt like it could crumble between his fingers. In the picture, a young military soldier in uniform stood next to the same motorcycle, smiling with pride. But what froze Damien to the ground wasn't the soldier. It was the small boy beside him, a boy who looked almost exactly like Damien did at that age. His breath caught. His heart hammered in his chest. Could it be a coincidence? Was it some trick of light and memory? Damien had grown up never knowing his father. His mother rarely spoke of him, except to say he was gone before Damien was old enough to remember. But that boy in the photo, he had Damien's same sharp jawline, the same eyes, the same slight tilt of the smile. The resemblance wasn't subtle. It was undeniable. Damien spent the next night in the garage, unable to shake the feeling that the veteran had answers he desperately needed. Darkness settled, and in the quiet hum of distant traffic, he felt something he hadn't felt since childhood. A longing for truth, for roots, for the father-shaped shadow that had followed him all his life. The next morning, Damien rode the old motorcycle back to Walter's house, fearing what he might learn, and fearing even more what he wouldn't. Walter was outside when Damien arrived, standing with a cane and a look that said he had been expecting him. Damien held out the photograph, unable to form the words. Walter's face softened, his shoulders sinking as though the weight of a lifetime pressed down all at once. He took the photo gently, his fingers trembling, and with a long sigh, he invited Damien inside. What followed was a story Damien never imagined he'd hear. Walter revealed that the soldier in the photo was his son, Michael, a man Walter spoke of with equal parts pride and pain. Michael had been a brave man, a loyal friend, and someone who had fallen in love with a woman he never got the chance to build a life with. According to Walter, Michael had written letters home mentioning her, a woman named Rebecca, Damien's mother's name. The room spun. Damien felt like his world was splitting open and coming together all at the same time. Walter choked back tears as he explained that Michael had died in service before he ever knew he had a son. He had left the motorcycle behind with the hope of one day passing it down to the family he dreamed of creating but never could. When Rebecca disappeared from Walter's life after Michael's death, taking her newborn child with her, he didn't know how to find them. All he could do was wait, hold onto the motorcycle, and pray that fate would bring his grandson home someday. Damien wasn't a man easily moved to tears, but the lump in his throat felt immovable. Everything he had ever wondered about his father, every empty space in his heart, suddenly found meaning. He had spent years building himself from scraps, believing he came from nothing. But now he realized he had belonged to someone all along. He wasn't alone. He wasn't rootless. He had a grandfather who had waited decades for him. The days that followed were filled with conversations. Damien never thought he would have stories about his father, about courage, about sacrifice, and about the way love doesn't always get the chance to stay, but it leaves its mark anyway. Damien helped Walter fix the old motorcycle, restoring it piece by piece, as though stitching together the fragments of a family broken by time. As they worked, something in both men began to heal. Walter gained back the spark he thought he had lost forever, and Damien found the father he never knew through the memories of a man who loved him before he was even born. When the motorcycle finally roared back to life, Walter placed a hand on Damien's shoulder, his voice thick with emotion. He told him that Michael would have been proud of the man Damien had become, proud of the strength he carried, proud of the heart he had tried so hard to hide beneath leather and ink. Damien didn't respond, not because he didn't want to, but because he couldn't. Some emotions are too big for words. As Damien rode the motorcycle into the sunset, the wind brushing against him like a long-awaited embrace, he felt something shift inside. He wasn't just riding a machine. He was carrying a legacy. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support means the world and helps us bring more real, emotional stories to life. Before the ending, tell us in the comments, what would you do if you discovered a secret like this hidden in an old motorcycle? In the end, Damien realized that life sometimes leads you down unexpected roads that hurt, roads that heal, and roads that bring you home. And for the first time in his life, he didn't fear the journey ahead. He embraced it, engine roaring, heart full, and the spirit of his father riding right there with him.